So hello everyone. So my name is Mohammad Izisra.
My name is Nur Shafinas binti Muhammad Safi.
My name is Rinasha.
My name is Zuni.
My name is Farha.
My name is Hao Si Chong.
So we'll be presenting on the challenges and problems of Certificate of Completion and Compliance, or known as CCC in Malaysia. So in Malaysia, obtaining a Certificate of Completion and Compliance, or CCC, for construction projects can be challenging due to bureaucratic processes, regulatory requirements, and occasional delays. Issues may arise from incomplete documentation, changes in project specifications, or adherence to building codes. Striking a balance between efficiency and compliance is crucial to navigate these challenges and ensure timely project completion. So in April 2007, the Certificate of Completion and Compliance, known as CCC, was introduced. It is thought to be a more efficient and self-regulated process because the sign-off is shared among the principal submitting person, or known as PSP. The local government is also involved in the CCC process, and they have the authority to conduct random checks on the construction site. The CCC certifies that a building or development adheres to the approved plans, specifications, and applicable regulations.
I'll be presenting on the problem statements. The first problem statement being the principal submitting person's case of liability. The owner's liability being on the PSP, in a sense that the PSP has a liability which also includes civil, criminal, statutory, as well as liabilities under torts, and this is added on to the principal submitting person's existing duties of care. So these liabilities may lead up to suits of 100,000 ringgit Malaysia, as well as imprisonment of up to 10 years. The next problem scenario is the increased administrative obligations of the PSP, where the PSP has to coordinate and oversee the other G forms being signed by the consultants involved. This is added to the PSP's existing duties to oversee and supervise construction process, as well as added to the PSP's overall duty of care. The third problem scenario is that the PSP has no immunity. This is as observed by the case of Aimi binti Ismail versus OSK Properties Sendirian Berhad, where the purchasers intended to sue the PSP, the local authority, as well as the developer. In this case, the local authority is absolved from the case due to having no contractual relationships with the purchasers. This is also to note that the protection of double jeopardy does not apply to the PSP under his duties. The second problem statement is the ineffective matrix of responsibility, where the first one is the inconsistency of the authority matrix. This can be observed where the PSP is vested full power to issue CCC. However, the unfair distribution of liability and responsibility among consultants in contractual relationships, as observed through some of the involved consultants not required to sign off G forms included in CCC, such as the quantity surveyors and so on. This also applies to the site supervisors, which are the eyes and ears of the construction going on site, as well as the contractors and subcontractors as well.
So today I will be explain on the importance of the CCC's process and procedure. The CCC can now be issued along with the Notice of Vacant Possession (VP), meaning you will be able to move immediately after possession of your keys. It's also safe to say that quality of the building's works can be expected improve, seeing how there's a clear trail of responsibility and legal consequences for any negligence. However, never ever accept vacant possession (VP) if your building has not been issued its Certificate of Completion and Compliance (CCC). Remember that its certification is proof that the building is fit for occupation. Hence, a building without a CCC may have underlying problems such as sewerage or fire safety issues. Certain developers have been known to issue partial CCCs, where only a certain element of the building has been approved.
I'm going to start by talking about contractual relationships and obligations. The first problem scenario being how the CCC disregards socio-economic and non-technical issues, as it is issued based on technical standard. This becomes an issue as the owner and developer has to resolve this among themselves, although they are not contractually obliged to each other. So the next being the lack of inspection and compliance, which was a solution to the previous CFO. However, it becomes a problem of bias and compromised outcome. Third one is the scenario where the local authority can claim no statutory obligation to the purchaser or owner. And the last one being the principal submitting person does not have any contractual control over all the parties despite them having most of the liabilities. For my next problem statement, it's the CCC procedural inadequacies. So for the first one, it's the lack of mechanism of quality control as the CCC does not issue any certification based on quality checks. And there is also the problem with poor adaptability to execution. If the construction conditions change, the CCC does not have any mechanism to review throughout time. The third problem scenario being the check and balance deficiency, as the PSP holds the most control over issuing the CCC. However, they may act more in accordance to their client rather than the end user. The last point is the ambiguous approach causing uncertainty among public. So the CCC was said to have not involved the local authority inspection to issue as it causes delay. However, they may still request to inspect and that still causes the same delay and defeats the purpose of the new system. That's all from me, thank you.
So I will be talking on the solution, which is number one, revert to the earlier regime where LA, which is the local authority, will hold the liability. The LA should rightfully bear the bulk of liability, following the practice from the previous regime, contrary to practices likening to the civil liabilities of the person submitting to the qualified person in the previous CFO regime, which is misleading. So, given the PSP increased administrative obligation, dependencies on employers, and exposure to additional liabilities under the CCC regime, hence an immediate overhaul to a return to the fair distribution of liabilities in the prior system is for number two, independent complaint body. The officials and the board in the change should be assured the public that they can handle and look into all complaints openly and truly. It is important for the authorities to create a separate group that can provide additional oversight and balance. On to the third one, professional bodies disciplinary proceeding. With this, the enhancement of disciplinary proceeding regarding complaints about CCC procedure should be addressed public concern, yet fails to alleviate all fears.
And I'm going to present about the CCC process in other countries compared to Malaysia. So, require of CCC in other countries, as in the requirement of the certificate of compliances and completions. Most of the Euro countries, they are having the same procedure as Malaysia. The fun fact of that is they don't call their certificate of compliance and completion as CCC. They will call it building permits, or the others they will just use permit as their certificate of completion. So in France, most of the country are different except in France. In France, the building requirements, the completion certificate are only be issued when the buildings are commercial or more than 50 meter high. But in other cases, such in Belgium, Netherlands, and Poland, they will use a use permit to show that the building are already complete. And in other countries such as Ireland, the contractor are responsible to submit a building completion certificate to the owner if the owner are requested for the certificate of completion. But in England and Wales, there are two kind of possibility. If the buildings are built and submit under local authorities, they need to provide a building certificate from the consultant to the authorities so that they can check and go through all the building approvals as submitted by the consultants. And another one will be the buildings submission and building completion certificate by the local inspections. The local inspection will need to issue a letter of building certificate to his honor and to the authorities. And the authority may reject it if there is any issue. Next, after the building certificate, the building need to undergo inspections by the local authorities to show that the building are actually follow all the plans and approval approved by the local authorities. But in France, the building only need to undergo this inspection when the building are commercial building and more than 50 meter high. And then when this building can be used and can be open to the public. So most of the country, they're having exactly the same. After CCC or after they got the building certificate, most of the building can be used and can be operated as usual, except from certain countries such as Australia, Denmark, France, Netherlands, and Poland.
So that's all from us. Problems of CCC. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.